Hey, how you doing, Titus?
Good.
Name's Sam Leggett, JVS Media Productions. In January, I was checking out some films at Sundance, and I happened to check out this amazing film called Exhibiting Forgiveness.
Never heard of it.
And I was like, dog, this is one of the best films at Sundance. Wow. I would love to talk to the person that directed it. And lo and behold, that's you. So
that's how that happened.
But no, in all full transparency, I think that you were able to pull out some amazing performances from John and Andre. Like, I think that the film, though, is more important than anything else. Because us as a people, we deal with fatherlessness.
Yeah.
We deal with hopelessness.
Yeah.
But what does it look like to actually come through that?
Yeah.
And I think your film, what it does is it breaks down every level of that. And I just want to compliment you on everything.
I appreciate
you do with that,
man. You know, the film is about hope.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes folks might see a trailer or something and feel like, oh shoot, this is like
it's
about
gonna be a
trauma,
trigger,
right? But it is actually about generational healing. That's like the fundamental thing that the film is about. So the fact that you picked up on all of that means a lot to me, man.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna try to weed through these questions as best I can. I wanted you to kind of break down unwarranted forgiveness. All right, let's take the father in this situation.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing you see him in is he's helping somebody, even though he has nothing.
Yes.
Right? So you already break down us as an audience to know, like, it's not a completely bad person.
Right.
But what got him to the circumstance that yielded this?
Yeah.
You know, and it's not even a karma thing. Everybody goes through life, right?
Yeah.
But there are times where you're trying to deal with unwarranted forgiveness that somebody has done something to you in the past.
Yeah.
Right? And when you do that, there's a cost. There's an emotional cost to forgiving somebody. But I think the other side of that, if you don't forgive them, there's a mental
a burden, a weight that you carry.
Right. And then there's a ramifications to what those actions look like. And I think that in this film, there's 3 different sides of that, which is crazy. Can you break down unwarranted forgiveness and the approach of it from an emotional impact of what it costs to do it, but then the weight of what it costs to not do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I grew up in a tradition, you know, my family is from the South originally, Mississippi, moved up to Michigan, Bible Belt. My grandmother was in the church, my grandfather was in the church, and even my father was in the church before he slipped off. So there is a particular kind of forgiveness that we are taught. You know, if we think about the story of Jesus, this dude is on the cross dying because these people are trying to kill him, and
forgive them for what they have done.
Forgive them for what they have done. Now, we can talk about that scripture later and go into the exegesis about it and so on and so forth, but we ain't got time for that.
I mean, another video. If y'all want that, that can be a podcast. We'll leave it on. Go ahead, continue.
But the reality as a community, Black folks, we are called to forgive in the moment of atrocity.
We have to.
When we are suffering at that moment. And you know, Christian A. Smith, a friend of mine and a pastor, says forgiveness requires the renegotiation of boundaries. And let me say that again. Forgiveness requires the renegotiation of boundaries. Now, that is not a thing that I was taught. I was taught the classic forgive and forget. If you really forgive them, then you wouldn't be feeling anything anymore. That's not true.
Right.
That's not real. And it sends us into this psychological tailspin. Because, like, I'm supposed to be forgiven. I'm supposed to have let this go. But I still feel some kind of way about this. Forgiveness, the kind of forgiveness that we're talking about in this film, is a kind of forgiveness that does not require you to re-injure yourself. You can say, I forgive you. That is to say, I'm not carrying this burden anymore, and you don't owe me nothing. I'm done with that.
Right.
But it does not mean that we have to walk off into the sunset together.
Yeah, like,
you can go that way, I can go this way, and that's okay. I'm just saying to you, I'm not carrying this anymore, and you don't owe me. That's what we're talking about in this film. That is not the kind of forgiveness that I grew up with. That's not what I was taught at all. But I think it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, probably shouldn't. I am from the South myself. I'm from North Carolina. I come from a very small town. Definitely. Same exact everything you kind of described. So it's kind of like if something happens within the family. It's like, hey, they did that, but you know, you got to live with them. That's your blood. It's fine. Even if somebody cuts somebody. Like, nah, like this is what they did. They paid for it. They did the time, whatever. You have to, you know, let it go.
And that's the thing that you're seeing in the film again and again. You have these characters, particularly with the mother, because this was a story of my mother, you know, these extraordinary, kind, compassionate, loving women who are continuing to forgive and forgive and forgive and forgive. And the son is like, Mama, you can't keep doing this. Right. It makes no sense to me. Yeah. You are in the line of fire and you keep running back into the front of the gun. Yeah. And as a son, the character is just like, I can't, no, right. I refuse. And it's not because he doesn't love her. He loves her more than anything else in the world. It's because he loves her that he doesn't want to see her in this position anymore. Yeah. Have her have to fall in the same way again and again.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other levels to that. Again, I wasn't going to approach this that way at all. This was not planned. As the son in a situation like that, you start to develop like, man, what could I have done different?
Right.
Guilt.
Right.
You start taking on the guilt from the situation, circumstance. Like maybe if I wasn't here, she wouldn't have to be oppressed like this. Or maybe if I do something better, or I can prove this, maybe it'll be a lax. And truth be told, like a lot of the flashback scenes you see, like he's trying to respect his dad and earn what he's doing, even in the midst of his own heartache, right? And I think the hard part about it is dealing with the fact that, one, not only you noticing the mother's suffering, but he's also dealing with it. Yeah. And what is the long-term effects for him? So it's like this little bit of anger and trepidation with the mom for not letting herself out of it. Yep. But then I'm in it by association.
Yeah. Because as a son, you know from a really early age, especially if your father is not in the house, I'm supposed to protect my mother, right? If somebody walk up on my mother, no matter how old I am, like I'm a step in front, right? That's your responsibility as a son, especially with the oldest son like I am, right? We know this from the beginning. Yeah. So when you see your mother suffering at the hands of another man, you feel like, damn, if I was a little bit bigger, if I was a little bit taller, like I could do something about this, right? And you carry that and you will carry it again and again. And that is the kind of thing that becomes a piece of the generational trauma. Yep. And so the film itself is really about that generational healing and this one character and what he did to get to that space of healing. Yeah. He had to deal with all of that. And fortunately for this character, he had that space of his artwork to be able to process it. And that's my story. I think I would be in a very different place in my life if I didn't have my artistic practice. If I couldn't like ingest all of the things, all of the challenges that I'm dealing with, and then digest that stuff out through the artwork, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know who I would be.
That's a great segue because it goes into my next question. So one of the things with Terrell as a character is that there's this interesting balance where, you know, a lot of the trauma and the things he's gone through are expressed out in his art. Some of his best art he's made is like, it's all right. Because for him, it's a challenge. Like he did it because he needed to get something out.
It's catharsis.
Right. And he benefits from it. But at the same time, he don't want to see it because it's also a symbolism of fragments of his heart and mind that's been taken back and forth. So from a portrait standpoint, one, I'm not sure if you did any of the pieces for the film.
All of the paintings.
That's freaking amazing.
Can I just state this for the record? Because I'm realizing people don't know this. Hey, y'all. My name is TITUS KAPHAR. I'm not actually a director. I'm actually a painter. I make paintings. If you Google me, you are not going to find any movies because I've only done one feature film. I make paintings. Check me out. Okay. Now.
Shameless plug. Because I was like, I know for a fact, I was like, this man is the artist first.
That's what
I was wondering, I was like, because some of these things so personal. Because the thing about it, like each one of the portraits were different segments of his life.
Yeah.
But it's like as we're moving through the film, it's like there's veils being pulled back because he's having to confront those. It's different when it's something like laid up somewhere else, like in DC National Portrait Location or something like that. But when it's in front of you, it hits different. Yeah. And so he's dealing with the fact that his dad's back in his life while also trying to move forward with his art. Yeah. So it's like he's not hitting a roadblock. He's got everything he needs to push it. But now he's got to face it. So I want you to talk towards the portraits and your approach to storytelling aspect.
As I said, I'm a painter. I've been painting for over 20 years now. I went to Yale for graduate school to paint, got out, did the Studio Museum of Harlem. That's what I do, right? Yeah. I have always used my personal years. Now I went to Yale for graduate school to paint, got out, did the Studio Museum of Harlem. That's what I do, right? Yeah. I have always used my personal narrative in my work. Because my work for me has always been about me trying to figure out stuff. The truth is, I'm not trying to teach you anything when I'm making stuff. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in my own head. I'm trying to make myself a better person in the world. And so I share that with the world, and it becomes this very vulnerable space. But in the best of opportunities, people step forward and say, that's my story too. So this began with me painting the Jerome Project, which is a body of work that I did about my father. I went back to Michigan to visit my family, and I had been estranged from my father about 15 years, showed up at my grandmother's steps, and my father was there. I had my 2 sons with me, my wife was with me, and my father was like, I want to talk to you. And I was like, I don't want to talk to you. I told you that a long time ago. I'm good. So I walk into my maternal grandmother's house thinking, all right, he's going to be outside, but he follows me into the house. And I was like, I don't know what you're doing. We're not having this conversation right now. They don't know who you are. This is not how they're going to be introduced. But my grandmother said, baby, you need to talk to him. So I don't know about you and your grandmother, but when my grandmother says something,
that's respect. You get hit upside the head.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna get a shoe. You're gonna get a shoe. I wish you would
go out and get a branch real quick.
Yeah, go get a switch. We still got that trauma coming back. So I was like, okay, grandma said I got to do this, so let me do this. So I picked up my camera and was like, okay, if you want to talk to me, then we have to let you account for the things you've done. There's a lot that you have to account for. He said, okay, be at my house in 15 minutes. And I was like, damn, okay, that did not work. I filmed him, and that's the scene that's in the basement. But my point is, when I got back from Michigan, I had this footage on my camera, and I started painting from the footage. I took the images in the camera, and I started painting. And then I Googled my father, because that's what you do, and I found 97 other black men with exactly the same name as my father, and all of their mugshots. And that threw me, because what I realized in that moment was, okay, this situation is not just about my father. This situation is about a drug epidemic in our community. This situation is about over-policing in our community. And although he has to take responsibility for what he did, there is a systematic challenge that he is not going to be able to overcome on his own. So I just continued making these paintings, and that was my entry into this, was these paintings. It grew from there. Again, I had the little documentary, but didn't know what to do with it, because I felt like it did a really good job of telling us where we were, but not how we got there. And the film itself, Exhibiting Forgiveness, this version of it, gives us both of those things.
That's amazing, man. All right. So moving forward, working with Andre, working with John, working with Anjanou,
Andra,
you've got not just some heavyweights, you got people that connect with an audience in ways that a lot of modern day actors cannot do.
They lock in.
So working with them, how was that? One, them breaking down their characters on an emotional level, because they have to be completely unguarded, right? Even if they connect, like just right now, this interview is, I'm unguarded talking to you. What were some of those challenges, but then what was the benefit that came coming from it?
We trusted each other, man. People Anjanou can be doing whatever she wants to be doing.
Anything.
Andra can be doing whatever she wants to do. Andre can be doing. These people are extraordinary. They don't need to be messing with some random painter who decides he wants to make a movie one day. They decided to do that, honestly, based on the artwork. They saw the paintings and they said, what he does in the art space is kind of wild. Maybe he can do something in the film space. They had faith in me. Those people trusted me. And I feel so blessed to have been able to work with them, especially on my first film. So one of my directors, Derek C. in France, gave me a piece of advice during casting that I took. He said, choose people that you trust as you're casting. Choose people that you trust. Make them feel protected, and then get out of their way. Let them do what they do. And that was it. So when we started talking, we had a few conversations about the script and so on and so forth that. But I trusted those people. I trusted them as artists. I knew that they were going to be able to deliver. I know all of their work. There was no moment where I was like, oh, shoot, is Andre going to be able to do this? Are you freaking kidding me? I've seen Andre on the stage. I've seen Andre on the screen. I know that Andre can pull off whatever you
He compliments
put in front
everybody that he's in front of. It's just crazy.
Andre is one of the most generous scene partners you have ever met. When he is in front of you, he makes you better.
Yep.
Like he elevates it. That is the thing that even when he is not on screen, it's not his shot. He is still connected to you. He's still engaged. If we are having a conversation and I got to shoot over here because this is your shot, Andre is still there and he's still pulling stuff out of you. That was the most powerful thing about watching him at play. Like, this dude has this ability to elevate every single person in the room. It's powerful. And then on top of it, there's nobody more humble.
Right.
You'll run into him, you'll see him, and he's like, you know, so kind. So how you doing? Whatever.
Yeah.
There's just humility in that man and skill that is on the next level.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This film tore my heart up, but it also put it back together in a very cathartic way because I connected with each of the different dynamics, whether it was the mother, whether it was Terrell, even the dad. I was kind of like, I had to look at it from a different lens because I think that's the most important thing. If we're going to go from a spiritual standpoint, like, what is your lens versus what the lens that needs to be?
Yeah.
Once you look at it from a different lens,
that's, you know, what you just said is the key. Like, rewind that, play it back. Like the reason that's key is because that was the discovery for me. When I started this project, it was really easy to make my father the villain of my narrative.
right.
But my father is not the villain of my narrative. And when I sat down to write, I realized if I was going to be honest, I had to understand why he did the things that he did. That made me ask questions as a writer that I never asked as a son. And when I sat down and I started understanding, oh, this is what happened with my grandfather. Oh, this is what happened with my grandmother. Oh, these are the things that he suffered under. Oh, man, he just passed this on. He didn't know how to do it. Hurt people, and continue to hurt people. And so I was just, oh, okay, now I understand. My father is not the villain of my narrative, but I need to make sure that I do not pass this on another generation. Because in my family, this has been happening. And I'm like, I'm not gonna let it keep happening.
It doesn't have to.
No.
Y'all heard that first. Thank you so much, Titus.
No problem, man. It was great.
Congratulations. Nice meeting you as well.
Appreciate you.
Y'all go and check it out as soon as you can. All right.